This is Mrs. Leah Griffith. She's going to take us through this paper. This is for January paper 2, 2020.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Miss Griffith, right? I am the English teacher for the Student Hub English A. So what I'm going to do with you all is just give a little insight. So we're going to be going into the first two questions of that paper, right? So it really will be the summary question and the expository writing question, right? So we know paper 2. We know most people, when I say, all right, guys, we're getting into paper 2 prep, they're like, oh God, miss, summary writing, that's where it's comic, that's the section that has killed me off, I can't do it. And so we go in, but I'm going to try and break it down for you all to the best of my ability to really help you all be able to pull out what you need to pull out and accomplish exactly what CXC should and would be asking of you, right? So this particular paper, right, they would have brought the passage. So regardless, when you flip open paper 2, it is the first question. You have no option, not like how like in short story writing, you have a little choice. There's no option. You have one summary, one passage, and that's just how it is. All right, so first things first would be reading the passage. Now, a lot of us, under exam conditions, would kind of skim the passage. And that is not what I want you to do. You need to make sure and read the passage. Now, I would say, and I usually tell my students at least 3 times, right? Bear in mind that CSEC really kind of cards 40 minutes for you to accomplish this question in. And I think 5 to 10 of those minutes already added into your 40 minutes is really for you to read it those 3 times. So you read it once, and the first time you're reading it is just obviously for your eyes to get accustomed to what is in front of you. From the second time that you're reading it now, you can start to pull out what is important. And you might be saying, okay, how do we know what is important, right? So clues that will give you an idea that, hey, this is something noteworthy. Hey, this is something I should probably be circling or underlining or something like that, right? When you see words repeated, sometimes it's even the title. So for instance, the title of this one, as we're seeing here, is Aloe Vera, the Thorny Balm, right? So we know, just by reading that alone, that something about this passage has something to do with aloe vera. We're from the Caribbean. We know aloes, that's like a common thing for us. So we could assume before we really get into the passage that the passage has something to do with aloe vera. Maybe its uses, maybe where it comes from. We don't know yet, right? So after you've read it the first time to get used to it, the second time you go in and you're looking for information that is really important. What do you think is important? Anything that helps you achieve the main idea, right? So your summary consists of your main idea and supporting details. When I read your summary, or when an examiner reads your summary, they are supposed to get what the essence of the original passage was. They're not supposed to read the original passage and then read your summary and your summary is lacking. Because obviously our summary is a concise version, we get that. But we don't want there to be like a bit of a disconnection, right? Okay, so we take it paragraph by paragraph. So in the first paragraph, right, we are seeing that more or less they talk about aloe vera and they give us more or less the different uses for it. So most of us might know this off the bat, but remember what we might know about aloe vera from having it in our yard, our grandparents, whatever, that must not cloud what the passage is telling us. So in our summary, we shouldn't just put our regular schmegular ideas of aloe vera. We have to stick with what is given in the passage, all right? We don't include anything extra. So they talk about the fact that it contains 75 minerals, all right? They talk about the fact that it is medicinal, and it can be used from a moisturizer to, it can be used for hair loss, etc. So they go through, and that's what that first paragraph is really about. So it's giving us an insight into the many uses of aloe vera. Okay, then they talk about places that it's been known to rub, you know what I mean? Rubbed on your fingers, right? So I don't know if you all have heard, but when children are sucking their fingers, sometimes they'll rub aloe vera on it. Hopefully, because of the bitter taste, the child won't suck their finger anymore, right? So they mention that there. And then they go on to say that it also has a bit of a, how to put it, a mystical element. It's some belief that there's a mystical element to it. So there, it kind of wards off evil. And, that's what some old people use it for. Okay, as well as having some cosmetic use. So what we have to do now is go into the first paragraph and see, okay, what from this is important for us? What from this do we think is noteworthy? Because remember, for each paragraph, you need to see what are the main ideas. And I don't want you all to get confused and think that a main idea is only, so one paragraph per main idea. One paragraph could have two main ideas in it. Remember, the main idea is the most important thing. You have to be able to ask yourself what is being told here. So in the first paragraph, the many different uses for aloe vera, that is definitely something that you want to keep in mind. All right. You also want to take away from the first paragraph that it is something that is found highly in the Caribbean, and outside of its medicinal uses and its health uses, it also has, how to describe it, it also has spiritual or mystical uses, as well as having to do with cutting bitterness and being used in food. And then when we go on to the second paragraph now, they zone in a little more. Yeah, well, that's what I just realized, that it is a picture and I couldn't. Right. Yeah. So in the second paragraph now, they zone in a little more. All right. They go in a little deeper and they talk about the fact that, aloe is a way of life, particularly in Aruba. Okay. And the fact that because of the topography, because of the geography of Aruba, it makes it very easy for our aloe to grow, as well as cacti to grow in general. So it grows all over the place. All right. And then they talk about a specific place. They talk about haystack and the fact that succulents and cacti thrive in this kind of environment, and especially the aloe vera, which is a type of that. Right. So we know the second paragraph, more or less, the information it's given us there is that Aruba and aloe go hand in hand for sure. And even further, the geographical and topographical makeup of Aruba breeds this kind of plant. That's why it's so plentiful in that environment. All right. In the third paragraph now, they give us a bit of history. So they talk about the fact that the island was so covered in succulents and aloe and cacti that it was called lily of the desert. All right. And also that at the time, right, in that particular time, because remember this paragraph's purpose is to give us a little background on history, that Aruba, did not really go down the path of the regular schmegular exporting sugar, banana, cocoa, coffee, citrus, all of that, like what other islands were doing at the time. But because they had so much of this thing, they decided, well, let's cultivate and distribute it because it has so many different uses, right? So that third paragraph is giving us a little historical context where aloe and Aruba is concerned, right? And in the last paragraphs, the smallest paragraph, if you will see that all they're really saying is that recently, because remember that was in the past, that was historic, right? That recently they have kind of moved away from that, all right? And the fact that there's not many fields that existed, they don't exist anymore, right? So they had to kind of change tactics. So really and truly, that last paragraph doesn't really have any big set of bearing on what you should include in your summary. So after you've read this, you've analyzed it, you've pulled out what you think is important, all right? What you need to do now is get your 5 main points. So after you read, you analyze, you pull out your points, there are 5 main points that CXC will ask you to do. So after you read this, they'll give you the paragraph, bam. You'll flip the page and you'll see 5 lines, all numbered 1 through 5. And the header will say something along the lines of, put your 5 main ideas here, put your 5 main points here. And you have to choose 5 or the most important things that stood out to you in this passage, but you can only choose 5 of them. So you now have to say, all right, how many main ideas did I get? All right, are they really that important? What has been told to me? What is the basis of this entire passage? All right, so in terms of the main ideas, here we have 5 based on the passage. So the first main idea that we've pulled out from that passage would have been that aloe vera, is a plant that possesses strong medicinal properties. Okay, right. So the first main idea is aloe vera is a plant that possesses strong medicinal properties. Now, if you had just put aloe vera is a plant that possesses strong properties, it would work as well, because in the first paragraph, they told us all the different things that aloe vera can do, all the great things it can do. It wasn't solely medicinal, but most of them had a medicinal value. Hence the first point being aloe vera is the plant that possesses strong medicinal properties. The second main idea we have now is this plant has a strong presence in Caribbean homes in a variety of ways, right? So we would have seen in the first paragraph, after they talked about, yes, aloe being so good and healthy and stuff, they talk specifically about the Caribbean and what aloe vera means in the Caribbean and in Caribbean households. What they also said is that it's used in a mystical way. So some people believe they have it there so that it would ward off evil. Then some people say that they use it when they make juices to cut bitterness. And then there's also the whole idea that it helps with digestion and that kind of thing. So that is why your second point should mention something about aloe vera and Caribbean homes and maybe the uses. All right. So the third main point that we go on to is aloe belongs to the succulent/cacti species and usually grows in heavily dry areas. All right. Yeah, you could put it in your hair. That's actually what a lot of people use it. A lot of beauty gurus and things use it for that, right? But to remember, even though that's something we know, if it's not in the passage, then it shouldn't be in our summary, okay? So after we talk about aloe has strong medicinal properties, aloe has a strong presence in Caribbean homes and a variety of uses. Aloe belongs to succulent cacti species and grows in dry areas. The fourth thing we should do, because after they've spoken about those 3 points we made, they went to talk about Aruba. So naturally, our fourth point should have something to do with Aruba. So we come up with Aruba is one of the driest places in the Caribbean, and thus many aloe vera plants grow there, right? And the fifth point we have is due to the island being plentiful in this plant, or what we had discussed earlier, this became Aruba's greatest export, especially in the 1920s. A lot of people skip that section. A lot of people see them asking for the 5 main points, and they skip the page and jump into the summary. Please don't do that. That is 5 marks you'll be giving up. Remember, your summary is out of 25 marks. 20 for the summary itself, and 5 for these 5 main points. So don't shortchange yourself, okay? In terms of the summary itself, what you have to do is remember that you have to be concise. Remember, most importantly, that you do have a word limit where summary writing is concerned. It's 120 words, right? You all have to try your best not to go past that 120 words. You can count your words, yes, but honestly, if you get yourself in the habit of writing within that word limit, then naturally for exams, you're going to get that done, okay? So just a little things to take into consideration when we're doing summary writing. Besides the 5 main points that we went through, your job is to take these points and ensure that they are presented in your summary. So these 5 points that you would have selected, no matter what the passage is, in this case, it's about aloes. But these 5 main points have to make their way into your summary. And most importantly, they have to make their way into your summary in the exact order that they were in the passage, or else that's going to throw off your organization mark. All right. So next important point to note that these points are your main ideas, as we had said, and therefore they need accompanying supporting details. What is a supporting detail? It's basically that you have your main idea, and in order to prove that, hey, this is the most important thing, or this is the bulk of what this paragraph is talking about, you have other clues in the paragraph that would be supporting that would be backing this up, right? Lastly, they talk about you have to now determine what is important. And I think this is a problem area for a lot of students. You all find it a little difficult to determine what to pull out from the passage and what to put into your past paper. Sorry, not your past paper, to what to put into your summary, your concise version. All right. So what we're doing, we're pulling out the main points and we're paraphrasing them. So paraphrase is just a fancy way, really and truly, of saying, put in your own words. You get a lot of marks for taking the information that would be here, and when you are including it in your summary, you put it in your own words. So that was just a little breakdown, a little bit of information on how to approach summary writing. So the other thing I was going to come on here quickly and talk to you all about and show you all and give you all a little insight about was also the expository writing question, because I saw somebody made reference to it. So in paper 2, the first question is a summary, and the second question falls into the category of expository writing. Now, expository writing is a wide field, a wide topic field. So you can get anything from an email to a notice to a statistical report to a normal report to a letter, right? So it has to do with writing where you're communicating information, okay? And it's a section, it's actually out of 30 marks, not 25 like your other sections in paper 2, all right? So let me show you all. Right. So this is an example of a paper 2 question that came. Okay. Yeah. And so they give you the prompt and you need to pull out the information. Now, what I find works well, no matter what they've asked you to do, whether they ask you to write a letter, a report, or an email, a notice, etc., you have to be able to pull out information. That is a key skill you need to have for paper 2. So when you have a situation like this or a prompt like this, the 4 W's, as I like to call them, come into play. So you read your prompt, you get the gist of the information that is being given to you. Because this is one of the sections, at least in my opinion, that I find that they give you most of the things you need to succeed in this question. You now just need to know your formats. You just need to know what's the difference between a letter and a report, or a statistical report and a normal report, etc. All right. So here in this particular prompt, they talk to us about the fact that you are the president of your school's student council, that there are elections and they give us a date and time and a place. All right. And then they tell us the positions that will be available, because remember, this is an election. And then they also talk to us about the fact that you need to tell them that the 5th form students can only be the ones counted for the president position, nobody else. You also need to communicate to them that students must vote for every position available. And then they tell you write a notice. And then they give you a little guideline in the sense that you have to format it, which simply means that your notice has to be in some kind of format. All right. It has to be following some kind of order, some kind of method. They talk to you again. They say that you have to select relevant and complete information. Again, like what I was talking to you all in summary writing, you have to be able to pull out from this what is necessary to include in your notice and what is not. Next, they say organize and express the information in your notice. So it's really just how you communicate this information to whoever is going to be reading this notice. Is it all over the place? Can they follow it? Is it clear? Right? Those things affect your organization and expression. And then they tell you to use appropriate grammar, sentence structure, vocabulary, spelling, and punctuation, which is understandable because it's an English exam. And then they put, lastly, your notice must be in continuous prose, right? Which is how you've been taught to write for paper 2. So that's nothing really to stress about. All right. And they say make sure to include all the relevant details so that students will be fully informed of the election. So what I tell people when the question 2 is concerned, try to put yourself in the person's situation. Try and put yourself in the person's shoes. So you are in school, you are the president of this students' council, and you know that you now have to have an election for new positions because those positions are opening up, right? And this information, you have to put it in a way that is efficient, all right, that gets the job done, that's competent, and that is concise, and must take the form of a notice. Okay, so things for us to note using the 4 W's that I had talked to you all about. The first one is what. All right, no, it doesn't go in any particular order because it's who, what, when, where, sometimes why, right, and sometimes how, right? But we're really dealing with the when, the where, the who, and the what. Those are the main 4 for this particular type of question. So if we're looking at the who are the people involved in this question? So it would be the positions that are open. That would be the who, as well as the fact that you are the outgoing president of your school student council, right? In terms of the when, we have a date, Friday the 25th June, 2020 at 10 a.m. So that is something to definitely pay attention to. Then they have a where. So they say your school's auditorium. So we know there's a particular place that this is taking place. All right. We have a what, which is the election. The election is the what. All right. Now, even though CSEC has given us most of the information, we still have to apply ourselves. So in the case of you need to give your school a name, if you want to go as far as naming your auditorium, you can. Some schools, most schools have a name for their auditorium. All right. And in terms of the notice, I'll just show you all what I would have pulled out. All right. Now you would have been writing. So just pretend that this is writing. Obviously I typed it, but you would be writing for your paper 2 exam. So you have to make sure that the information and the important information reaches everybody who passes by this notice. So you now need to think, what does a notice look like? Have I seen a notice before? And we've all seen notice before, right? Whether you go to a place and they have a notice up on the outside, it's a paper and it has important information for you to note before coming in. Maybe their closing times, maybe that there's going to be a change in their opening times, but it's all about communicating important information for those who need it. So the first thing you're going to put here is student council elections. If you want to take it one step further and put Ferry Street High, right? Let's just say that's the name of the school, Ferry Street High student council elections. Date, you put your date. All right, you can say location, school auditorium. If your school auditorium has a name, you put the name of your school auditorium. You go on now to show them what positions will be available. And you need to find a way to make sure that they understand that these are the executive positions. All right? You list out all your positions that they would have given you in the prompt. So all 5, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, public relations officer. All right? And then, now NB usually means notes, right? It's something for you to pay attention. If you feel comfortable just writing out notes, that's okay. Or please note, not a problem. Because that was an important piece of information they gave us, that the president position is only available for Form 5 students. All right, they put it up here. All right, right underneath public relations officer, it's the first sentence. And then students must vote for every position available. So a notice, when you think notice, at least if you see it, you're supposed to be able to tell yourself, okay, this is not difficult. I might not have done it fully in school, but I have a clear understanding of what a notice requires of me. I get information. I have to communicate this information and make sure everybody's on the same page. Okay, so this past paper had a notice as the expository question, but there are ones that have emails, there are ones that have letters, there are ones that have reports of all types and different types of letters as well. But the key of the matter is to sit down with the information or the prompt which is this, the question itself, and be able to pull out, okay, I definitely need to include this. I cannot forget this. Is there a date? Is there a time? Is there a place? All right, what is occurring? Is something occurring? Is there a situation? All right, and it calls for you to really analyze the prompt and plan. All right, definitely for paper 2, you need to ensure that you plan. And a lot of y'all hear that and you say, oh gosh, I don't need to plan. I write from my head. But you have nothing to lose by planning before you start to write. It's just a surefire way for you not to forget anything. That's all.